In the course of my investigations, I learned to ask people about, not just about what they had seen, but about any strange thing that had happened to them around the time of their sighting, that week or even that month. And a lot of people would come up with some very strange things, very strange visitors. And we still get reports of these strange visitors. About 10 years ago in New York City, there was a lady in black that used to hang around the pickup bars around 2nd Avenue. And this woman became a legend in New York. I know some of you may have heard of her. But she would approach men in the a bar and get them all excited, and then she would excuse herself and go into the ladies' room and never come out again. There must have been 100 of these stories during that period. We had she was supposedly a very good-looking lady too, dressed in a very slinky black dress, and God knows what game that was, or what the purpose of all that was for. Now, as I said, we've had an opportunity. A lot of witnesses have either offered them food or seen these people in restaurants, and we've had an opportunity to see their eating habits, which are disgusting. These people do not know how to eat. As I said, one of them tried to drink Jell-O. They don't know how to handle a knife and fork. In one incident, the waitress had to come over and show the man how to cut a steak. And then they didn't chew their food, they just sort of swallow it, gulp it down. And they figure they're getting away with it, but everybody in the place is watching them do it. And again, they always look like Orientals who are not quite Oriental. Again, the Laplander kind of look. And they're always dressed in black clothes, which most often is out of style. They're wearing something that would have been in style in 1946 instead of 1986. And so there's always some little thing that's out of whack with these people, just as the military officers wear sneakers, as I said. Now, we have a lot of things lumped into the same category. There are various incidents that I was involved in over the years. We had a UFO investigator in Maine who was, people, and some of you probably know all about this, get very obsessed with UFOs. It dominates their whole life, and especially if they become UFO investigators in a small town. And it takes over their life. And then they become very credulous, and all sorts of strange things can seem to happen to them. We had a UFO investigator in Maine who was driving around an area where UFOs had been seen, and he saw a black Cadillac, and he had a gun with him, and he got out of the car and started shooting at the black Cadillac, which really upset the guy who was driving the black Cadillac, because it wasn't a black Cadillac at all. This UFO investigator was hallucinating. He thought he was seeing a black Cadillac, and it was an ordinary car, and being driven by an ordinary person. And it was almost a very serious incident. The investigator was hauled into jail, and nobody would believe his story, and he turned to me thinking I could get him out of the slammer. But what am I going to go up there and say, listen, the man is shooting at black Cadillacs, and he thinks he sees men in black. We had a UFO investigator in Massachusetts who was seeing alligators. Now this poor man, would turn on the spigot in his bathroom, and an alligator would come out of the faucet. He would get into his car, and he'd look in the back seat, and there's an alligator in the back seat. So he was hallucinating about alligators, and I knew there was nothing much. He was writing me these long letters telling me about all the alligators he was seeing, and I sent a friend of mine, Dr. Berthold Schwartz, up to see him. And when Dr. Schwartz arrived there, the man had a shotgun by the door, and he was waiting for Dr. Schwartz, but he was afraid that Dr. Schwartz was a man in black. Dr. Schwartz is a famous psychiatrist. But we do have a lot of, I can't really call them screwballs because there's something more involved here. It's where their minds just get carried away with the whole UFO thing. The term that I used to use was distortions of reality, so that very often the people that you're seeing may not be men in black at all. They may be just an ordinary guy in an ordinary suit, and your mind is making him a man in black. Betty and Barney Hill, I don't know if you're up enough with the literature, but Betty and Barney Hill had quite a few men in black episodes, which may have been just hallucinatory. They would go into a restaurant, and they would be followed by this man in a black suit with a mustache, and he would sit down at the table next to them, and while they're eating, this man in black is eating soup, and his mustache falls in his soup. And it was obvious that these people were just following Betty and Barney Hill around. And we would put them into the Men in Black category.